What's up, K12 Nation? This is Dr. Williams with the My K12 Career Show. Today we have a treat for you. We have Doug Friend, an athletic director with over 30 years of experience as a K12 educator. He's coming on the show today. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of great value out of this show. He talks about how he had an opportunity to be a college coach, and he chose to stay in K12 education. He's been a teacher. He's been a coach. He's worked at the middle school, the high school. He's been an assistant principal. He's been a high school principal, and he's an athletic director right now. And so we're grateful for Doug Friend to come on the show. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of value out of what he has to share with you. I really hope you enjoy the show. Thank you so much. Doug Friend, we are so grateful that you have taken the time to come on the My K12 Career Show to share your story with our viewers and our listeners. Would you please tell our community what's going on in your life and in your K-12 career right now?
Well, my life has expanded over the last couple decades. I started in education back basically when I was first out of high school. I started as a freshman football coach and went to school at a local university and kind of got my career going that way. And then ventured into college coaching about 10 years later.
Okay.
And I did that for a while at Eastern Michigan University up in Ypsilanti. And then I had to make a decision because I was a graduate assistant, whether I want to stay in college coaching or go back to the K through 12 environment. So I decided to go back to K through 12, and I was actually a classroom teacher, middle school athletic director for 8 years. And then I ventured into secondary administration, and I actually was a high school principal for 5 years, high school assistant principal for 8 years, and a middle school assistant principal for 2 years.
Wow.
And then I decided to go back into I got my roots, where I got my start was athletics. So I've been a high school athletic director since 2015 and been doing it ever since. Yes.
That's amazing. Now it's funny because your resume just read like someone that was headed toward the superintendency, not back to the to the sports world.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you said that because I do have my Ed.S. So in the state of Indiana, I am technically qualified to become a school superintendent. And at one point when I started, it actually started as an EDD, but as you know, as a high school principal, you got time creep, and then my chair decided to retire, and DePaul University gave me another year to finish my dissertation, even though I have most of it done. And I just decided, well, you know what, at this point in time in my career, I'll just go for the Ed.S. and then go back into athletics. So but I did have that thought at one moment.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, if you wanted to do that. Hey, look, you still have time. You can do it if you want to.
That's right. Like I told you before, I still have 7 more years before I decide to retire. So
absolutely, you never know. You never know what the future holds. There's this old saying that says, "If you want to make God smile, tell him your plans, because He might have other plans." So you never know.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So, what made you get into K-12 education? You said you came into like a fork in the road where you could have continued on that college track, and who knows, you might be a millionaire head coach right now if you had stayed on that track. But you decided to go into the K-12 route. Like, what made you make that ultimate decision?
Well, my father was a high school athletic director, head football coach, head basketball coach for many years. Actually, he started a high school in my hometown. He was the first, like I said, the first athletic director, head football coach, basketball coach. And then he went on to Purdue University, was an administrator there for 22 years as an athletic director. So yeah, my dad technically had a big influence in my life. I remember how fathers spend time with their kids. They take them out, this, that, and the other, get an experience. My dad took me to his coaching clinics where he spoke. So as a 5-year-old, I'd be sitting there in the audience, had no clue what was going on, but I was kind of brought up in that environment. Then I had some good mentors along the way. My high school coaches, teachers, the college coaches, all the coaches I've worked with in the past. They have been very influential. And then one of the most biggest influences in my life was my former superintendent in Hammond, who's actually one that hired me. And, he's one of those guys that he didn't care, title was one thing. It didn't matter what he was called. He would just call anybody into his office, sit down with you for half an hour and just chit chat with you and ask you about your career. Where do you plan to be? And that really struck me well because he was a people person, and he didn't,
Sure.
like I said, because he was a superintendent of school, didn't matter. It just he spoke to everybody the same way and the same tone, and really cared about my future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. We all have mentors in our lives, right? That just kind of help guide us along the way. So that's really cool that you have that. So you've been doing this for, you say 30 years, right? Or 31 years. How many years is it?
31 years total, 30 years in the same school district.
Wow.
So I'll be beginning my 31st year in Hammond. Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow. So I guess my question is like you said you worked at the middle and the high school level. Is there a specific level that you like better, or are they pretty equal?
No, actually, my preference is high school level.
Me
Even
too.
though I love my experience at the middle school level, but because I was a high school coach for many years, and I just felt like I had a better connection with the older kids. A lot of the kids that we deal with have they may not have the skills coming in as a freshman. Maybe for whatever reason, they may be at risk type kids. But
Yeah.
I figured that, I kind of like, a lot of them I can relate to because, when I was in high school, I was, free sport athlete, didn't take academics very seriously. And back in the day, we didn't have internet. It's like, bring your books home. My father would say, hey, don't you have homework tonight? And I go, no. And then lo and behold, I got a little bit behind. And so, a lot of our kids that having their struggles, I really can relate to them because it's kind of like how I was brought up or how I went through my life in high school too. So that's why I kind of like to help those, that type of environment. Like I said, as a high school administrator for many years, I would sit down and have a chat with a student. And when you're a high school principal, we didn't have deans back then. I was basically dealing with everything, the curriculum, the discipline. But if a child came to my office, it would not be, I would not be just saying, why did you do that? Why did you do this? I would just talk to him as a human being. I would talk to him, let's talk about your life, your future goals. We sit there and chat for 10, 15 minutes, and then we dive into what brought that person to my office in the first place. And then we figure out together how we can resolve that issue. And I think that's very important because everyone wants to be heard. And I figure, that's the way I can connect with kids. And, even today, I have a lot of my former student athletes and students reach out to me through what have not. And we still keep in contact, even in some of them are in their 40s, and I have a few maybe in their late 40s. So it's really special that you make these connections, and I just want to keep up with their career to see how they're doing.
No, that's fair. Those kind of moments are priceless, right? When you have, former student athletes come back and talk about how you poured into their lives. And you might not even remember some of the things that they share with you, but it's just amazing, those kind of stories that just really resonate. And, you can't put a price tag on
that. Yep, absolutely. It's just really special. Like I said, when I see success stories, even when my student athletes reach out and say, hey, Mr. Front, I got married, I have 3 boys, and you were such a big influence in my life, and that to me, it's all worth it. That's means that at least I had something to do with their success in their life. And that's what we're all about in education. I mean, to get them to the next level,
100%. Honestly, that's one of the main reasons why I started this show, if I'm being honest, Doug, because I just feel like our profession is the absolute greatest profession in the world. We're the profession that makes all the other professions possible. And whether you're talking about a lawyer, doctor, engineer, computer scientist, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Barack Obama, it doesn't matter. I guarantee you every last one of those people, all of those different professions can point back to a elementary teacher, elementary counselor, a middle school teacher, high school principal that poured into their lives and made a difference in their lives. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I just posted some today. It says, one of the best when people become coaches or administrators, it's always that one person they connected with. And whether, like I said, whether it's coaching or administration, so we all had that one person or 2 people in our lives at the school K-12 level that really made a big impact upon our lives, and just made our job a lot easier to go into K-12 education.
You are so right. You're so right. So, speaking on that, I feel like, our K-12 profession does get a bad rap sometimes. And, like I said, I feel like we're the profession that makes all other professions possible. Why do you feel, Doug, that our profession is such a great profession?
I think, it's been going on for many years, Joe. It's just, I think people don't really know what we do. I think,
Mm,
I know I would invite, parents and the community members. I always had an open door policy. Please come in, sit down in our classes, see what we do, see what it's all about. And sometimes they think, oh, well, teachers have the best job in the world. They work maybe 7 months out of the year, maybe 6.5 hours a day, and they have the summers off. But they don't understand all that goes into that, all the preparation, even in the summer months when going to professional development or doing Zoom meetings. It's just constant. Kind of get your profession, your trade up a little bit, a notch higher. And there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot that goes into what goes on, because ultimately nowadays we're all based off our standardized test scores, and if we don't, in our school setting, if we don't keep our scores up, then our school will fail.
absolutely.
I had an instance of back when I first became principal. Our school was on the verge of being taken over by the state. And we actually had state meetings with the IDOE because our math and English scores were not high. So we were able to adopt a system called TAP, the System for Teacher and Student Advancement Program, which is the first teacher evaluation program that pretty much came in the state of Indiana. We were actually a year ahead of everybody else.
Okay.
And so I think with that TAP program and instituting a freshman and sophomore academy back then, and having Project Lead the Way, a lot of these programs like that gave kids options, and it kind of tied in programs, not only the math and sciences, but intertwine each other, so that way they each feed off each other. And as a coach, or as a teacher, as an administrator, I always had the last thing in my lines in my emails were team. Together, everyone achieves more. There's no I in the world, we're a team. And I always tell them, I may be the principal, but that's just the title.
Yes.
I'm not any better than you guys, and we're all one commodity here for the betterment of our students that we serve. So I think if we just have people who don't think too highly of our profession just come in and see what we're all about, and I think they'll have a different opinion about what we do in K-12 education.
That's fair. Thank you for sharing that. So, there's somebody that's watching us right now, Doug, that is seriously thinking about getting out of the profession right now. Maybe they've been scarred or traumatized by the events that have happened during the pandemic. Maybe they feel like you said, there's a lot of pressure on schools to produce and to make sure that they achieve, in certain, areas and as a school. What would you say to that person that, maybe has 3 to 5 years in the profession and they're truly thinking about leaving the profession? What would you say to them?
I would say, first of all, seek the advice of the fellow educators that they work with. I think the biggest thing, I love networking. I love just meeting new people, going to state conferences, even within your own school district. Network with people who've been doing this for a while and talk to them, because I think in any profession, we, sometimes get that moment in time that we feel doubt ourselves. Why did we do this? Why did we do that? But I think when you talk to people, collaborate and share your ideas, because you know what, they're going to find out that a lot of people have the same issues that they have. I think with networking and communication and having that support system is very influential. And I think that's what they really need to do. And just don't throw in the towel yet, because ultimately the kids need you. The kids need good, sound people that have empathy, that care about their well-being. And that's what it boils down to. Because I know a lot of educators sometimes, especially Joe, in your business and my business, we deal with, disgruntled parents sometimes. And I always invite those parents in too. And I sit down with them and I have a chat with them. And, it's just like we talk, we communicate, and then we brainstorm together how we can solve whatever issue that they may have a concern with. And that's what we need to do. But I think those educators just need to really collaborate and talk and network, and, before they decide to get out of the profession.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. I mean, you've been doing this 30 years. I'm sure there were times where you're like, oh my God. And I know I've done it as well. I've been doing this almost 30 years myself. So yeah, I mean, I think any profession is going to have its ups and downs, but this profession is so noble in the sense that we're dealing with human beings, and we just don't even know sometimes when we're in it what kind of impact we're having on the lives of young people. So yeah, that's really good advice. Thank you for sharing that. So Doug, you said that you have been doing this 31 years. You still have around 7 years left. What do you see yourself doing these next 7 years? Are you just going to, stay where you're at and just continue on this athletic director track, or are there other plans?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that, like I said, I finally came to an agreement with myself saying, this is where I got my start. This is where I'm going to have my finish.
Mm,
And I believe that I make a difference in maybe not so much as the academic component like I used to do, but more in an athletic way. But academics and athletics and the fine arts and performing arts, and they all intertwine together and that's why we always tell at the high school I'm at, it's student athletes, student first, athlete
absolutely.
second, but because kids need an outlet. Kids need,
Yes.
not only just to be sitting in a classroom for 6.5, 7 hours a day, but they need an outlet and something structured, formalized, and in our community keeps them off the streets. And they really enjoy that, when they're hanging out with other kids their age, and the teamwork aspect of it, and the long time, lifetime friendships that they make in athletics. And the same thing with all the other components. Like I said before, we have a outstanding performing arts academy at our high school that I'm currently at. And,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, in our performing arts and our athletic department, we work hand in hand, because there's some students that may be late coming down to the athletic practice, and we work well together and to make sure that, we do what's best for the student. And that's what we're all about.
No, that's fair. I mean, honestly, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I know I wouldn't be on this conversation if it wasn't for, extracurricular activities, athletics, because that was the care for me. That was what kept me coming to school every day, and kept me engaged, kept me doing my best academically. I was a good student. I mean, yeah, I had the capacity, but, I would be lying if I said I was just like, oh, yeah, let's go to school every day. No, I mean, it was knowing that I was going to be playing football or playing basketball or running track, that kept me coming back every day. So that's definitely a hook that keeps kids engaged in school. And you're right, like that, it's not just student, it's student athlete. And yeah, they go hand in hand. And a lot of our kids, if they weren't involved in some form of extracurricular activity, they wouldn't even come to school.
Yes, and the academic component always comes first.
Sure, absolutely.
As an athletic director, I always tell my teachers, I said, what, if a student has to make up an assignment, if they have to stay and do a study session, then that takes top priority. And my coaches know. I mean, they know that, we place high emphasis on academics, and that that is their first and foremost, because ultimately, as well as I do, being a former athlete, that we're not going to make unless we're at the top level, we're not going to make that as our career, as far as performance is concerned. So, we want to prepare them for life. But I believe that athletics and performing arts and extracurricular activities really goes hand in hand with academics.
That's cool. That's really cool. But speaking of that, is there anyone that you coached or had, access to during your career that did make it to the next level? Were there any good stories like that?
I'm sure there were a few, to be honest with you, but it's been so many throughout the years.
I know, right?
Many of my former student athletes have went on to play college ball, but as far as going to the next level, now when I was in high school, I've had a few of my classmates go on to play professional baseball, professional football, yeah. But as far as when I've been involved in K-12 education, not off the top of my head, but maybe there was a couple here and there.
Well, since you're in Indiana, I just got to share a quick story with you. I used to work in Immokalee, Florida, and that claim to fame is the great Edrin James. And I'll never forget watching him. I think it was the first play of the game of the year, his junior year. He took it 80 yards to the house, and he was just literally a man among boys. I said, this guy's going to play on Sundays. I saw it even then as an 11th grader, that he was going to do that. And he ended up playing for many years in Indianapolis and ended up making it to the Hall of Fame. And also coached another kid named Philip Buchanan. And I actually coached him in basketball. And he ended up getting drafted in the first round by the Raiders. But he went to the U, and yeah, he did some good things. But he wasn't even like Edrin James. Like, he wasn't this prodigy that you just knew was going to be a superstar. Matter of fact, I feel like I had some better athletes than him. And it shows you, like, you just never know. It's almost like hitting the lottery, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. So that's great.
Yeah. So, Doug, if you had to, you've been doing this 31 years. If you had to do it all over again, would you still have taken the same path? If you had that fork in the road and it's like, okay, I'm going to the college level, or I'm going to go back to the K-12 level. Would you still have done it?
Yes, I would still keep it the same. Like I said, when I was a graduate assistant, obviously that's a preparation to be a college football coach. And I saw what a lot of the full-time coaches went through, the struggles, not only at Eastern, but across the country. And I think that really thing that hit home was our second year at Eastern. They sent us to the national conference. At the time, it was in New Orleans. And I seen all these GAs, handing out their resumes back when you had paper resumes. And then, you'd have to start at a Division III school in order to work your way up. And at the time, they only made a minimum salary. And I said, and if they don't win ball games, they get fired. So I'm like thinking, I'm not so sure if I like that, instability. Now, there were 3 of us GAs, and one of them still coaching college football to this day at the University of Washington. And we still keep in contact. He was with the Detroit Lions, and he was with the University of Missouri, Cal Berkeley. But that's what he decided he wanted to do. Where myself and this other guy are we went back to the high school level. Okay. So yeah, I would not change a thing though. I would definitely keep it the same path that I went on for many years.
Awesome. Well, Doug, I want to take the time to honor you and celebrate you and thank you for all the good work you've done in your own school community for these past 31 years. I know there have been many families, student athletes that have been impacted by your service. And like I said, I started this program because I wanted to celebrate teachers, educators like yourself, and just give you a platform where, people would know about all the good work you've done in your community. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Williams. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, Doug, we want to thank you again for coming on the show. But before you leave, would you please give our viewers some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
All I would have to say is what I tell my coaches, my student athletes and teachers: always persevere. Don't let adversity get in your way. Always have grit, especially what we've all went through during the pandemic. And just, we all have our ups and downs in life, but you just pick yourself up, find support, and just keep moving forward, because it does get better. It does get better. I love it. And I could get a hold of with my email address, lowercase d as in Douglas, m as in Michael, friend, friend, at hammond.k12.in.us.
Awesome. DM friend at hammond.k12.in.us.
That is correct. Yes.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Doug. Thank you, my friend, no pun intended, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you, and we definitely wish you all the best.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Appreciate you again.
All right.